Greetings all. It's so great to be back together. I would like to start today with some recitation. I just want to remind you that I am using the ecclesiastical pronunciation. So if you're teaching or learning with the classical pronunciation, I just want to tell you a couple of things that are going to be different. So in ecclesiastical pronunciation, these two letters together say A, like in hey, okay? And in classical pronunciation, they do the long I, okay? So that's different. Another big difference, and there's quite a few, but these are the ones I just want to point out right now, that this letter V in the ecclesiastical pronunciation is pronounced like a V, va. But in the classical pronunciation, it's pronounced like a W, wa. Okay, so as we recite and as we go forward, just try to remember those couple of differences, and as we hit some more, I might point them out. Okay, so we'll start with terra, okay? Terra, terre, terre, terram, terra, terre, terrarum, terris, terras, terris. Servus, servi, servo, servum, servo. Servi, servorum, servis, servos, servis. Bellum, belli, bello, bellum, bello. Bella, bellorum, bellis, bella, bellis. Just a reminder of the neuter rules. Says that nominative and accusative are identical, and nominative and accusative plural always end in A. So we got bella, bella, okay? All right, so a couple of review questions before we start something really exciting today, okay? So I want to remember what we call noun families. That's right, declensions, okay? And there are going to be 5 declensions that we learn, okay? Now, how do we know what declension a noun belongs to? That's right. You know by the genitive singular. So, for instance, all nouns of the first declension have AE in the genitive singular. If the genitive singular ends in AE, it's first declension. Okay, second declension, all nouns, all genitive singulars end in the letter I. Okay, and look, we have 2 different forms for second declension. We have the masculine, the nominative ends in US, and we have the neuter, the nominative ends in UM. Okay? Well, now I'm going to write some words on the board, and I want you to look at these words and tell me if you see any similarities or any differences in these words, okay? So I'll put this one, that one. Let me see what else I got. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, so look at those 4 words I put up there. And if you look at the endings of those, you'll see, well, this one ends in an O, and this one in X, and this one in N, and this one in S. What is up with that? We can't tell what declension that word belongs to. And of course we can't, because remember, the nominative singular, which is what these words are, never tell us the declension. So now I'm going to write down the genitives of these words and see if there's anything similar. Okay, so watch that. Okay, do you see something similar? That's right, all the genitive singulars end in IS. So we know that all nouns whose genitive singular end in IS belong to the 3rd declension. Okay, now the 3rd declension and the 3rd conjugation when we get to verbs are very, very irregular, okay? They're problem children. So let's look at our stems, okay? So remember, we find the stem of every noun by taking off the genitive singular ending. So I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm going to use blue. Okay, so I'm going to go to homo, hominis. I'm going to take off this genitive singular ending, homin. Okay, that's my stem. Okay, lex, legis. Take off my genitive singular ending, leg is my stem. Flumen, fluminis. Oh, look at that. The E that's in this nominative is an I in the stem. Okay, this X in lex becomes a G in the stem. There's so many changes. Let's look at veritas, veritatis. The stem actually adds a T. Okay, so you can see. Now I want to remind you, this first one goes in the nominative singular spot, and that is it. Its job is done. Okay, unless it's a neuter noun, and then we remember it's the same in the accusative singular. Okay, but its job is done after it's done in the nominative singular. Then we're going to get a stem, okay, from the genitive singular, and we're going to put it in all the other spots in our declension chart, and then add our endings. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Our model noun for the third declension is lex legis, okay? And if you're classical, lex legis, okay? All right, here we go. Go ahead. If you have your composition notebook, take out your composition notebook, and you're going to just write whatever I write as I do it, and that will help you have one more way to remember it, not just watching this video, but actually writing it down. Okay, so let's write the cases to start, just to remind ourselves. We have nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative. Okay, I'm going to remind you about special words while we're here, okay? So remember, the genitive case, we're going to use, as we translate it, of, okay? Don't forget that. And dative, we're going to use to or for as we translate that. And the ablative case is you remember we talked about prepositions? So we say in, by, with, from. Those are some of the things that we translate with the ablative case. Okay, let's do singular and plural. And remember, our model is lex legis. And by the way, this is for the masculine feminine, okay? We'll have a different third declension neuter model, okay? But this is the masculine feminine. So I take a lex, which is my nominative, and I just stick it there, and its job is done, okay? So now I'm going to find the stem. I'm going to drop off the is, the genitive singular ending, and my stem that's going in the rest of the 9 places is leg. Okay, that's kind of easy if you think about a leg, okay? There, leg, 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 leg. Okay, so now we have our third declension endings. And I actually would love for you to get your grammar book out as we do this so you can look at them, okay? So we've done our first and second declensions. Now on page 9 in your grammar book, it has a lot about the third declension. You want to read that. You don't want to miss that information, okay? So make sure you read that. But our model is on page 10 of our grammar book. Okay, you'll see lex right there. And so it's number 57. This is an I stem third declension we'll talk about in a couple of more videos. We'll get to that one. But right now, we're just going to focus on this masculine feminine model of lex legis. Okay, so if you see the endings there, I'm going to switch colors again. So we have the genitive singular is. We call this one various because we don't know what it's going to end in. Is, e, m, okay. Then we have ace, ibus, ace, ibus. Okay, so now you can actually see some differences. This used to be just east. Now it's going to be ebus, okay, for a little bit of time here. So we have lex, legis, legi, legem, lege, leges, legum, legibus, leges, legibus, okay? Hey, by the way, that G in front of you doesn't make a soft G sound, okay? It kind of works like English does. If it comes before an I or an E in ecclesiastical pronunciation, the G sounds like a J, J, okay? So anyway, here is the declension of lex legis. And I'm just going to translate it. I'm not going to write it down. It's right in your grammar book. The law, of the law, to or for the law, in, by, with, from the laws, of the laws, to, for the laws, in, by, with, from the laws. Now, I'm going to just point out a couple of tricky things and talk 1 minute about this. See this I here? Now, remember the second declension, you had an I in the masculine form, in the genitive singular, and in the nominative plural. Well, look at here. In third declension, you have it in the dative singular. So how can you keep track? If you see a word that has the I on it, how are you going to keep track of how to translate it? Do I translate it of the law, or to, for the law? And the key to this is when you memorize your vocab, you have to memorize the nominative and genitive so you know what declension a word belongs to. So then when you're doing a sentence and you come up to a word like legi, then you can say, okay, that is third declension. And in third declension, I see the I in the dative singular. So it's to the law. Okay, whereas if you had servi, which is second declension masculine, you know, well, that's either of the slave or nominative plural, the slaves, okay, if that would work. And you have to figure that out by the context in the sentence, okay, because it doesn't always, word order doesn't always work, okay? But anyway, again, we have that M in the accusative singular. That will help you. And then you notice which we're so used to be, this we're used to being in the accusative singular, all of a sudden it's genitive plural in third declension. So that just really, really means you have to know what declension a word belongs to. So as you're memorizing, make sure you memorize the nominative and genitive. Okay, now before we finish our video and you go on for your exercises, okay, and they're very similar to what you've been doing all along. There's no new grammar except for this paradigm, okay? So I want to talk about gender. Now, here's a caveat. These gender rules I'm going to give you hold for Henle. Okay, Henle and this whole textbook series uses these gender rules. If you're using a different textbook, your textbook might give you different gender rules. Okay, I have only seen these with Henle, but I'm going to go ahead and give them to you. So remember, we have natural gender is the first one. We abbreviate that NG. We always apply that one first. If it names a masculine being, it's masculine. If it names a feminine being, it's feminine. Then we have 1DF. Most first declension nouns are feminine. 2DUS nouns are masculine. 2DUM nouns are neuter. Okay, so far so good. Then we have third declension. We're always going to apply natural gender first. So if it names a word, we're going to get the word king, rex, regis. If it names king, it's going to be masculine, okay? But then we're going to have 3 rules, and here's what they are. 3D socks is feminine. 3D error is masculine, and 3D lancet is neuter. So what this means, if the nominative singular, not the genitive, if the nominative singular ends in S, O, or X, the noun is going to be feminine. If the nominative singular ends in ER or OR, it's going to be masculine. And if the nominative singular ends in LANCET, it's going to be neuter. Okay? So let's look let's look at our vocab. So your new vocab for these next few exercises is found on page 36 of your textbook. And the first word is the word that's our model, lex, legis, okay? Now, it means law, okay? So it's not a natural gender, okay? It's not naming a masculine or feminine being. So it ends in X in the nominative singular, so we know lex legis is going to be feminine, okay? Now let's look at the next one, rex regis. Okay, that word means king. So we know kings are all masculine, so because of natural gender, that's our rule, it's going to be masculine. And then let's look at the next one, dukes, duchess, okay, that means leader. So in the Roman times, leaders would have been men. So again, we apply natural gender. And dukes, even though it ends in an X, it's going to be masculine due to natural gender. Lux, lucis, that means light. Okay, so it's not natural gender. So here again, ends in X. We're going to make that word feminine. Oh, look at this one. Homo, hominis. Okay, that means man. Okay, so man, natural gender, of course. Okay, imperator, imperatoris. Okay, so that is a commander-in-chief or general. I always apply this first, so it would be natural gender, but you notice it also ends in OR, so it could be 3D error, masculine. And then the last one, veritas, veritatis. So veritas means truth, and it ends in an S, so that word is also going to be feminine. So these will help you in this textbook to determine gender, although we're going to get exceptions, and as you make a flashcard, I would especially put the gender of your exceptions on your flashcard. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and work exercise 30, 31, 32, and exercise 34, and then we'll come back next time and learn about appositives. All right, valete discipuli.